Welcome back, sports fans. This is Moving the Needle podcast, but you're not here to listen to me blabber on. I've got a good friend. We haven't been able to catch up for a while, and another excuse to do the podcast. Top free rider and slopestyle athlete, but I think he's got a really powerful story because he actually moved away from competition at a very early age, in his 20s. So that's something tough to go through, but he's back on the bike. Family man, just like myself. So Anton Thelander, welcome to the show. And I'm hearing I'm breaking your podcast virginity.
Yeah, I think so, Andrew. Thanks a lot for having me. And yeah, it's an honor.
Yeah, awesome, man. Yeah, we haven't caught up for a while, but
Yeah,
you've got quite a sort of colorful history in the sport. So I've chatted to you a lot off camera or off
yeah,
podcast, but I think it's awesome that you're coming back into the sport. And I had Soderstrom on the podcast when he went through some quite heavy stuff personally, and
yeah.
it really resonated with the listeners. It resonated with your fellow competitors because not everyone wants to talk about that. But how about, like, what are you up to at the moment? How are things going? How are you doing?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I definitely remember that episode listening into it, and I was like, yeah, it's cool to get that story out there, what Martin went through. Just to, yeah, I mean, it's not always easy, right? Even though it can look like that. But yeah, I'm doing well nowadays. Like you said, family man nowadays, and just enjoying life back home in Sweden at the moment. We have a beautiful fall day going on, so yeah, can't complain.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that, isn't it? More and more people are speaking about it, but social
Hmm.
media especially makes it really, really look like everyone's lives are amazing. And we're all
Yeah,
really sort of making the problem worse. I mean, our sponsors enjoy us posting about beautiful bikes, shiny new toys. If you do a cool trick, it often needs to go on social media. I mean, that's what you're getting paid to do, or getting flowed product. So as Soderstrom spoke about it, like, in what world do you hang around with your mates and just brag about everything? But social media is really that place. And I enjoy it for looking at stuff and other sports I follow. And I don't
yeah,
really judge an athlete when he posts like an epic motocross whip, right? So there's that part, but it certainly is tough, I think, mentally. I don't know. Like, you're always just comparing. And when I log on and I see someone else has released a podcast or someone else is doing something way cooler than me on a bike, like, I'm aware that's going to happen. But it's certainly just like always like a mental sort of roller coaster to get through.
yeah. I mean, totally. Like you're saying, you just getting that highlight reel of everyone's lives, and it's easy to think that that's what everyone's life looks like, but it's certainly not that for everyone. But yeah, I mean, it's obviously fun to see all the cool stuff on social media, but it's definitely there's a backside to it as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pro and con, isn't it? There's like
Yeah,
just a pro and con to everything. There's always balance. But you had quite the highlight reel at a young age, So your life is
sure.
almost like social media. You came out strong, came out swinging. Maybe take us back, like, for some of the listeners that maybe are new to the pod, new to the sport. You
Yeah,
reached the highest of highs in slopestyle freeride mountain biking from Sweden, which is just kind of
yeah.
absurd because you can't ride all year round. So how did you get into bikes? What did that look like? How the hell do you get so good?
Yeah, totally. We have been thinking about that a lot of Swedes, like how come we're quite a few in the top of slopestyle from Sweden. So yeah, let's bring it back. So I'm actually like I grew up in Uppsala, which is the same hometown as Martin, Söderström, and yeah, I guess I started riding around 10 or 11 years old. And before that, I played sports like football, ice hockey, and all that team sports. But found riding through, well, basically me and my older brother discovered it at the same time. And I had a friend, her name is Jacob Needler, who used to race BMX like a few years prior to discovering mountain bikes. But then we kind of all did it at the same time. And then Martin happened to live like a kilometer away from my parents' house. So that certainly helped, seeing him and his friends riding around being like 4 years older than me. So definitely big inspiration. And yeah, just I guess like any other young kid, just riding around bikes, jumping on curbs and some hills and whatnot. And it's quickly kind of escalated from just being a little hobby passion to like, oh, I do really enjoy this. And I think just after maybe a year or two, I quit all of my other sports because like ice hockey in the summer, starting doing like physical work like 5 times a week. I was like, I'd rather be out riding with my friends than have a coach tell me what to do. So yeah, we just rode a bunch, me and my older brother and all my friends. And I guess when I was 16, ending ninth grade of school, I moved up to that biking school we have in Sweden, which is like a sports school with a biking program that I attended. So moved up there and lived with like-minded people, and I had riding spots, and basically you ride 24/7, 365. So obviously a lot more riding and progress started happening, doing like a bunch of riding and then also like work in the gym and stuff like that. So start taking it a lot more serious.
That's insane. So there's a bike school in Sweden. Like I understand it's a sports school and they obviously added the biking, but how did they even come to that? I mean, this is happening before Soderstrom. Like how, I haven't even heard of many high schools that offer that. I mean, let us know in the comments, but I know there's schools that have now biking as like a sport, but not that you sort of focused and maybe you have time in the day as well to focus on it, and coaches, or like how does that work, and where did it even start?
Yeah, so I guess it started thanks to Tommy Johansson, who is a former downhill racer. You might know him, Cross Tampa official on Instagram. Yeah, actually, I think it was second or third in the worlds in '94 downhill.
Okay.
So he's a massive legend. So he started one of those schools for like four-cross racing and downhill racing, like probably a couple years prior to me going to that school. And then that program got shut down and they moved to a different city and opened up this pretty serious school with all of the other sports like ice hockey and cross-country skiing and whatnot. But then they also had like road biking, cross-country, four-cross, and then slopestyle for the first time. So I was like, I definitely need to attend this one. So I was in the class with cross-country people, road biking guys, downhill racers. It was a really cool mix of people. And just like I said, moving there and just living with like-minded people and just having friends to ride with all the time, and coaches as well. So it was a really cool time.
So you basically lived on your bike when you weren't sort of forced to do schoolwork, I guess. And I think I saw a story that you guys used to sort of clock your hours, like from the gym to the riding. Like, have you heard of the 10,000 hour rule? 10 years or 10,000 hours,
totally,
to become proficient or world class. And that makes sense. Like by the time you were, late teens, you'd easily done that. Even if you started late, you just caught it up, if you rode all day.
For sure. I mean, we definitely clocked our hours and did that Training Peaks program. And there was a lot of weeks I did like 24-hour training weeks, and just definitely put the time in. And it wasn't like I was training or thinking I was putting the time in. I just enjoyed it so much and just wanted to be on my bike. And then Tompa, the coach, told me like, if you do work in the gym, this could help you as well. Stay away from injuries and just being able to do more stuff on your bike. So definitely took that serious as well.
So I was thinking, wow, that could burn you out. I mean, maybe it added to burnout and stuff, but we'll obviously get to that and injuries and all that. But it sounds like, no, it totally didn't feel like training or work. It just, obviously looking back, it was training, but for you, it was just a necessary sort of means to get to the end of like getting better on your bike. He was like, hey, if you go to the gym, you'll be sort of better at tricks or injury prevention. Like, did he sell it to you like that?
Yeah, pretty much. And just, I guess packed it in a nice enough way for us to just not mind it too much. Yeah, like I had injuries and definitely wanted to stay away from them as best as I can. The only thing I didn't enjoy as much was probably the velodrome riding. It wasn't as fun.
What, track
But yeah,
cycling?
yeah, we did that.
They made you do that on the fixies?
The first indoor one in Sweden they built in that, like around our gym. So there was no way to stay away from it.
And did you have any crashes? I've watched some of those races back when I was a kid. My dad took me, and it's horrendous.
Yeah, we definitely had some funny crashes. No crazy ones. I think only the coach stood for the crazy one. He actually, so they had like, the track is round, and then they had like I guess in the middle, or like the whole floor went down so they can move stuff into the gym, and he tried to gap that, and it didn't really time with the pedals and the fixie, so I had a huge heel over the bars, nose case. That's probably the worst one that I can think of, but wow, he needs to post that clip eventually, I think. It's so insane.
That's funny. And then, how does it progress to being a pro? Obviously, there's comps in between, but you go from a sports school, probably seeing Martin, he would have been on the world stage if he was 4 years ahead of you by that time. Like, how does that work? And do you remember the time you're like, okay, I'm going to make this a career? Or is it just you wake up one day and you've got sponsors and you're just doing it?
Yeah, I guess a mixture of both. When I started, I had no idea this could turn into a job or a career. But then obviously it helped seeing Martin being older than me and turning pro probably 4 or 5 years before me. And he was also helping out at the school, being a coach. And I started like traveling with him in Sweden from like 12 years old. So just learned a lot from him, and then got a lot of help from him, like dealing with sponsors. And then I guess it was in my second year in school after, in the biking program, he saw some potential, and he reached out to Tarek Rassouli, who ran Resolution, the management company, which supported Martin, and then asked him if he could help me out as well. So Tarek reached out to me, and we made a deal, and he pretty much set up this whole deal with Canyon. And I knew of Canyon, but I only saw they had like cross country and road bikes back then, and some like free ride bikes. But then he made this deal with Canyon that me and Tommy G, Thomas Janan, is gonna develop like their whole gravity program basically. So we got like free range and work with the engineers there to develop the hardtail and the slope bike with them, which was really cool experience, and super stoked to see those bikes still kicking around today and being like at the top level of the sport.
Yeah, that's quite an undertaking at your age, to develop and work with engineers. I remember on the racing side, like it was quite daunting getting asked for feedback and stuff, and you're like, yeah, I kind of know what's going on, but I'm inexperienced as well. I think I know what's fast and what's not, or what angles you need, or top tube lengths. So what was that process like?
Yeah, definitely a huge undertaking, like you're saying. Like looking back, I was like, how would they trust like an 18 and a 19-year-old kid to do this with them? But I'm lucky obviously they did a lot of it as well, but we just basically said what we enjoyed and preferred from our previous experience riding and the frames we had ridden before. They just designed a killer frame, and I think it's pretty much the same exact design still as we did that. We just have done some tweaks here and there since. So I think we did a somewhat decent job.
Yeah, but it makes sense actually. Like if you're an engineer and you've never ridden dirt jumps or slopestyle, then how would you know? You're going to have to ask someone. And you guys, as we spoke about, have, even at 18, like crazy amount of experience. And I guess that's how things come to market. It's really cool that they would trust someone that young, as they should, because you guys, I guess designing a bike sounds that you've got inexperience, but riding, you've got a lot of the experience. So I guess it's like anything, it's quite uncomfortable to do until you do it. Like if you did the next one, if they ask you again, you know the language to speak, and you'd say, hey, this is what we did last time, maybe we should change this angle, or how do we work this thing out, you know?
Yeah, totally. It was definitely a fun process, and like pretty cool to have a touch on a product that has lived this long.
Yeah. Okay, so then you burst onto the scene. You're doing comps. Martin's given you the connection. I know Tarek has done great things. So you've sort of got someone in your corner to get you into events, or sort of help you make less mistakes, I guess. What was it like getting to these events, touring, then you're going to start flying to other countries? Like, I've spoken to enough guys. It's the slopestyle guys. It's pretty rock style life, you know? The money might not be as good, but the lifestyle certainly looks similar.
Totally, yeah. I mean, so I guess I would have been like competing a few years. Like in Sweden, I've competed for a couple years before that. And then maybe I've done like a year or two, like in Europe. And then the year before this all happened, I went to the States, did this Claymore Challenge in Highland Mountain Bike Park. And traveled with Martin. And I think already then that was my first like year on the MTB World Tour. I think I ended up like 23rd in the world, which gave me some like momentum and confidence, and just trained a lot and super hard in for the 2013 season, which would have been the first year like going pro. So it was really cool, like traveling to all these cool locations. And just basically riding your bike with friends on amazing courses, which, I mean, seems unreal to think that could be your job, you know?
And what about the Rockstar? I mean, it is traveling the world, riding with your mates. You're so young, everything's probably fun, you're learning. And then let's not forget, like, these friends like to let off some steam, or maybe get rid of some of the stress, right? That's how I look at it as well. It seems like then you guys let your hair down after the event pretty hard as well.
Yeah, I think even like it used to be a lot more rockstar life, like back when I came on and compared to nowadays, but it's definitely like you're saying, letting off some steam after the event, or even, I mean, back then people let off steam before the event and stuff like that, but usually after an event, during it, all of that. But after an event, usually some huge after parties, which were usually a really good time, and definitely some cool stories from those.
Yeah, and what's some of the highlights? Like looking back, do results come to mind? Do after parties, like the bonds with the friends, like what comes to mind, like looking back at those early years?
I think in the beginning I was just blown away of, like, honestly just riding with all these idols of mine that I was seeing in videos from when I was younger, and then now competing against them, and some even beat them, you know, in events. Seemed so crazy. But like, I think my first full year on tour was my best year, which would have been that first year on Canyon. I ended up like 6th overall in the world, which to me was crazy, coming from like the year before 23rd with no sponsors, and then all of a sudden just thrown into the deep end and competing with the best of the best, and even some podiums and some events. So definitely crazy fast ride.
Yeah, and did that add to expectations from your side? Did you get more sponsors, salaries? Like, what did it look like? Because obviously it was probably happening so quickly, I would imagine. And it's just exciting.
Sure.
And there's no expectations. Like, every result you get, you're like, well, that was amazing. I would guess. Like, I had similar, like riding against my idols, then qualifying better than them, then sometimes beating them and going, okay, well, this is my new normal. And then, you know, as it goes on, you expect to be there the whole time, and that's not always realistic.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it started fairly early in the season. Actually, 2013, I got 3rd in Red Bull Bergline and stood on the podium with Brett Reeder and Sam Pilgrim. It was like, damn, I'm up here with these guys, and there's a lot of huge names under me in the rankings. And then basically, like you're saying, it went so fast, just going from event to event to event. It's pretty hard to like stop and realize what's going on. And the next one would have been, they did the X Games in Munich in 2013, and I remember being just pretty frustrated not being invited, because I was competing against these people, and yeah, like there were 2 weekends before I managed to be on the podium, and then they had this Red Bull Phenom contest where they put like younger riders. So I basically was put in a rookie contest. I looked at it like that anyway. It was like 6 people invited to it, and it was, I think it was me, Louis Rebel, Matt Jones, Tom Van Steenberg, and am I forgetting someone? Probably. Yeah, Ray George, an American kid as well, and then I think a Finnish guy. And I ended up winning that. And I think that was basically like for Red Bull to see who was the next kid coming up and put on the radar, you know. And then it just kept on going that year, contest after contest. Ended up 3rd in the Colorado Freeride Festival. And then a few weekends after, going to Whistler for the first time. And yeah, riding in my dream event, Red Bull Joyride, which is the pinnacle of the sport. And yeah, I actually had like a huge crash, probably like 15 minutes before the event. I was like, oh no, this can't be it, how this ends. I could barely walk like 10 minutes before my run. I was like, is this it? And then luckily I had my brother there with me, and he was like, man, you need to toughen up and at least give it a go. I mean, what's the worst that can happen, right? Like, you've traveled this far, and yeah, you'll regret this if you don't try. So basically just took my first run as a bit of a warm-up lap, and then the second one went for it and ended up 4th. So definitely stoked that.
No ways.
Yeah.
And this crash, like, what happened? Was it unlucky? Like, I heard you and Max talking a little bit. Like, do you feel the pressure at an event like that, even if you're not comfortable, to like get the trick in that you think you're going to do? Or is it the crowd? Like, what happens? Like, talk us through how big that event is and what the pressure feels like.
Yeah, I think, yeah, like I said, it's the biggest slopestyle event there is. It's where slopestyle was born, so it's a hugely important one. And basically where all the slopestyle riders dream of riding one day, and I finally made it there. And I mean, in Sweden we don't really have any courses similar to that, so always when you show up to an event, it's a huge learning curve just getting into the speeds. I'd say that's probably the hardest part to get used to, just how fast you're going and doing your tricks on a probably 3 to 4 times bigger jump than you have at home. So for me in practice, it's always like I take it quite easy and like get the speed dialed, because I know all the tricks I can do them. Just it's a matter of getting comfortable on the course and figuring out the speed. So the crash was actually just on a tail whip on the boner log, which would have been the second feature on course. And I just basically overshot the tail whip, probably just because being a little bit nervous of doing it for the first time. And yeah, it didn't help that I saved it for the last few minutes before the event. But yeah, it worked out my run, learned from my mistake. So yeah, and definitely, like you're saying, it's a lot of people there, but I kind of don't think that even matters. It's more like just the pressure you put on yourself, and you kind of in the zone, just doing a thing, focusing on the course.
Yeah, I mean, it would be tough if you let spectators and things influence you. So you're the type of rider that doesn't have to do every trick of his run in practice. If you feel you've got the speed and the flow, will you keep some gnarly ones, or did you, just for that like second banger run?
Oh, for sure. I think probably at least 50% of my run wasn't done beforehand.
Really? Sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And especially like the last feature in Whistler is usually a tricky one for the slope, because it's a lot of different events coming into that finish corral, right? With the DH race and the dual slalom and also the speed and style. I think that year was in particular was the craziest one for the last feature, because I think they probably did some rebuilding and stuff of this like snowboard step down booter type jump. And I think at least me, myself, and Martin got to hit it like probably once or twice or 3 times before the event. And I think I've jumped it. Actually, I might have just jumped it straight once before the event. And then in the first round, I just flipped it. And then in the second one, I went for like a cork flip bar spin and managed to stomp that. So I was really stoked.
Yeah, that end feature every year, because of like how the heel runs, like it falls away so much. Like that is always so horrendous. I enjoyed it when they sort of made it more of like a double, or like one year they kind of made it feel like a step up, but otherwise it's these huge flat drops, or like you say, those big step downs, which they look amazing. But as we saw with Martin, he's had a huge crash there. Like there's been so many crashes there, and it's like, it's good till it's not for you riders. Did you guys ever say to them, like, you've got to give us something safer, or is that frowned upon to sort of say that as a rider?
Yeah, I don't know, actually. I never mentioned it. And I don't know if people have, actually. I mean, I think it's a great show booter, right? And need a spectacular finish to a run. And like you're saying, Martin definitely ate shit big time on that one. And that was the same year that I ended up fourth. So it was tough to see, like standing in the bottom, seeing him come down with base, probably would have been the winning run that year, and just eating it on the last feature.
Yeah, he was on fire for sure that year, as were you. Like, it's just such bittersweet, you know, with the sport. Like, you can go from the highest of highs to lowest of lows just within an instant.
Totally. But then I guess after that, it was still all sunshine and rainbows. And I think after the Rebel Phenom win, and then another podium, and then the fourth in Whistler, I got picked up by Red Bull as well. Which was definitely like a dream coming true, riding with that helmet on, and actually got it put on my head just the day before Martin had his own invitational event back in our hometown, just in the middle of the city, which was a really cool experience, just riding in front of family and friends, and just basically showing them what we've done competing all over the world.
So people... Did you know that you're going to get the deal at some point? Like, everyone, obviously on the videos, it looks like this big surprise, right? So you don't know when you're getting it, but surely you've talked contract, salary, support, or like, how does that work? It's not like you just get handed a helmet, because in whatever rider's like, I don't want the helmet. Like, what is the backstory of getting on Red Bull?
Yeah, true. I honestly feel the same way as you when I see all these posts. Like, surely they do know, because I know that I knew. I just didn't exactly know when it was going to happen, but obviously, like you're saying, you're definitely going to have to go through some negotiations and whatnot beforehand. But it came like a bit of a surprise for me. I was definitely thinking that I was going to get it at that weekend at Martin's event. But then I think I just got it a day earlier than I expected. So it's at the like welcome dinner for his event, he just presented me with a hat, and the next day in the morning of practice, I just got my first helmet. So it was definitely a surreal moment.
Yeah, it is just, it is quite the pinnacle of the sport back then. You know, there was of the first companies to do the helmet deal. It was Red Bull, like super aggressive marketing out there, support. So yeah, I mean, I just was surprised when people like, I don't know, I guess the comments are like, as if he didn't know. It's like, of course you have to know. You have to know it might happen. Like, of course there's conversations, but then like you say, they might say, okay, let's chat at this event, and then they sneak it in as a surprise, or get your sponsors to send a helmet early. Like, it is, I like that part of it, like presenting it, and athletes.
Yeah.
It seems to be a current athlete, former athlete often presents it. That's quite cool as well.
Exactly, yeah. Like I said, Martin gave my first hat and helmet to me, which was really cool, because I looked up to him for ages and rode with him, and it's a massive inspiration and help throughout my career. So it was an honor to get it from him. By the way, am I way too bright, or should I shut the
I
window a
think
bit?
you're all right. I don't know. I
Yeah,
think you're fine
it
for
just
now. Yeah, yeah.
it just
Well, the
feels
guys in
so
the comments
blown
can
out.
tell
And
us. Are you
yeah,
feeling a bit? You can try. Do you want to shut it a bit? Otherwise, it might
I
get a
might
bit
try it out.
dark.
We'll
Oh, we're
see,
doing
just a
some
little
on
bit.
the fly lighting adjustments.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just
See, this guy's a
look a
pro.
bit more professional, like
There we
Andrew here.
go. Look at this guy.
A bit more like it, eh?
Yeah, that looks good. I like that. That's
Cool.
pro.
Yeah, I'm still kind of warm from my run, so it didn't help with the sun coming through here.
And
But anyway, where were we?
no, we were at the point, still the highest of highs. The Instagram
Yeah.
highlights reel. You still hitting the Instagram highlight. Your best
Yeah.
life hard. Getting a Red Bull helmet. Results are flowing in. You're riding through crashes. Luckily, not getting hurt. So what does that
After that,
off season
yeah.
look like? I guess. So that's 2013. It sounded like.
Exactly, 2013, you're correct. I mean, getting that Rebel helmet, and I ended up winning Martin's event, which was insane as well in the hometown. And then, I guess just a week after, receiving an invite to Rebel Rampage, which was far outside of my comfort zone. Like, I'd only been on a downhill bike for probably 2 or 3 years prior to that. Like, probably, yeah, I had my first downhill bike at like 16, and then obviously getting some bikes from Canyon. But then, yeah, going to Utah, riding Rampage was definitely a huge learning curve, but a insanely fun one, and I'm really glad I got to experience that.
So you are glad it's not in hindsight like maybe I wasn't experienced enough to go do it, because it seems like, yeah, they hand out these invites at the time. I mean, you were a slopestyle rider, no disrespect. You were definitely fish out of water there on a downhill bike, that terrain. I mean, it's gnarly. Obviously, your bike handling skills cross over clearly. So you survived Rampage, but you probably, I mean, I didn't look up that result. What was it like?
Yeah.
Getting there into the desert, not a lot of
Yeah.
experience and time on a downhill bike.
Oh, definitely not. And luckily, I was kind of going there with Sam Pilgrim, because I flew into Vegas and he picked me up there, and we went together, and we were kind of on the same program out there in the desert, basically just riding, having fun, and not taking it too serious. And just, we knew we weren't there to win. Or back then, they even had qualifying before finals and stuff. And like you're saying, we're fish out of water there, because we're just basically invited because we were top 10 in the slopestyle world, like basically slopestyle world tour, the FMB world tour, which had more free ride events back then. But just because we were ranked top 10, we're invited to Rampage, and yeah, it was a huge learning curve, and we took it fairly easy, I'd say. I don't know if they had like big dig crews and stuff back then already, but some people did, like the North Americans probably did, but me and Pilgrim were just alone on the hill, maybe dug for an hour, and then just rode. And we had a pretty chill ridge line down the mountain, and I think that actually was like just a few places off qualifying, so I was stoked. I did my first run, first ride to drop of the day, and finished my run. I was like, cool, that's it, I'm done. Stoked I've done this.
Off to Vegas. I mean, that seems like a smart way to do it, But I mean, people have transitioned. Like Tommy G's put in a lot of work. He can hang there, and I'm sure you would have if it was something you wanted to do. You just need the time,
Totally, yeah. It's definitely a fun one. Like, it's a cool event where you get to shape your own line, and you can basically build wherever you want, and that suits your riding style. So it's a very, very fun event to watch. And I'm sure if I kept on competing, I probably would have been keen to push in that direction as well.
What do you think about the purists saying it's got too man-made, and the landings are too buff, and you can do slope-style tricks on these bikes? So where do you sit? Because now you're obviously in a judging aspect as well on the slopestyle. But what do you think about the Rampage side of where the sport's gone?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm a bit biased towards slopestyle and tricks and all that, because I love seeing that. So for me, it doesn't hurt, but also I get like coming from the early days of Rampage now, it's a huge difference. And I mean, it's pretty cool to have some, like, I like the mixture when people can have both some gnarly shoots where it's pretty raw, and then have some buff jumps where they can show off some diverse tricks. And yeah, I think that's what's cool about the event, just the overall, that you can basically put whatever you want in your run. And yeah, I probably wouldn't want to judge that event, to be honest. It's just so hard, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I chatted to Bear Claw about it, and the internet haters are insane during that event because it's so subjective. Like, even if you had a perfect system of judging, like, it's so subjective on who you think should win. There's emotion. You're not even on site, you know. You can't see the magnitude or the sort of danger of some of the lines. And yeah, I'm like pretty mixed as well. I think it is a natural evolution. You know, once you allow dig teams, once you allowed water, sandbags, all these things, like, what do you expect? And then also, you know, it is safe as well if you can get these landings buff. People want to see these huge jumps, or they want to probably see tricks. But if you don't allow them to buff the landing, then there's going to be more crashes, and we don't want people getting hurt. So it's quite catch-22 on the Rampage side.
Totally, I definitely agree.
And you go into that off season, I guess, after Rampage. What does off season look like for you? What is your preparation, training? Like, how serious are you taking it? And also, it's winter in Sweden, so what on earth are you doing? You're just riding indoor skate parks? Like, how? Yeah, we've glossed over the part that half the year or more is not really rideable. We've kind of not really spoken about that.
True. So I guess that was kind of the blessing moving up to this biking school, where they had like an indoor facility, which basically had like a BMX track around the whole like indoor facility, and the middle of it was a mulch jump where we can work on our tricks and stuff. So definitely spend a lot of time in there, and in the gym, and then also just on the ski hill, enjoying myself, taking some time enjoying winter as well. And then usually went to like Barcelona once or twice, like usually once in the off season in the fall or winter time, and then once just right before the season in the spring.
Is that La Poma? That's the jump spot. Was it there back then as well?
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's been around for a lot of years, and definitely probably the best place to be in Europe for dirt jumping and slopestyle riding. So usually a big crew of Swedes went there every like pre-season to just get into some outdoor riding again after just being indoors in that facility or in some skate parks.
So part of me thinks that does keep it enjoyable when you can't ride all the time, or you have to take some time away. Like, I found other sports and hung out with mates. Luckily for me, it was summer, so that was beach and golf and parties and stuff. And I think that's how Greg in the downhill keeps going, or did keep going, is he's able to switch off. So part of me thinks that helped you being, you know, from Sweden. Is like, when you do get to ride, you make the most of it when it's outdoors. So you're still having a good time at this stage, right? Like, happy
Definitely,
Anton.
yeah.
Instagram Anton.
For sure. And I think, like you're saying, that's probably one of the things that helped us, just being so keen every time we got to ride, like La Poma, or being outdoor again in Sweden in the spring or in the summer. Just so much stuff we want to do, and never really got bored of it. But yeah, I guess that would have turned us into the 2014 season. And yeah, like you're saying, back then, super stoked, happy, and just continued competing on the FMB World Tour. I think one of the first events of the season was the FIS one in Montpellier. And I think Martin just got back from his leg injury that happened in Whistler. And I remember it was being the coolest feeling ever, standing on the podium next to Martin and Thomas Phenom. So I think Martin was second, Tommy was first, and I was in third. And great start to the season. And I think then 26 tricks, might have crashed or not getting the result I wanted. And then straight after 26 tricks in Leogang went to, that is called nowadays Swatch 9s. Back then it was 9 nights. And I had a huge crashed, snapped my collarbone in probably 3 pieces. And this is back in June, so pretty much missed the whole of that contest season just because of that crash and injury I had there. Needed surgery and was probably off the bike for like 2 months. And tried to get back for Whistler. Wasn't possible. Went out there, just rode on the mountain, but didn't really trust the collarbone to be strong enough to ride the joyride. And then I had my hopes up of riding the Rebel District ride, which would have been a dream event of mine to ride, but didn't really have a proper like checkup before, so I wasn't like sure if it was gonna be able to stand like riding big slopestyle course again like that. So unfortunately didn't have a checkup before. Day after, Tarek managed to get a checkup for me in Germany, and apparently it was all good. I was like, should have done this a week ago or so. But then luckily it was good, and after not riding for 2 months, went to Peter Henke's place where we filmed a really cool slopestyle video, Slopestyle Paradise, with me, Peter Henke, and Thomas Janon. Went there and prepared for Martin's event, which was going to happen again the next weekend. And basically I had my comeback contest at Martin's event in my hometown, and somehow after a day of riding managed to win that again, which was an insane feeling, and was back over the moon.
And so, I mean, when you bounce back from an injury like that, it probably just numbs all the pain and shit stuff of having an injury, right? If you're able to bounce back like that.
Totally, yeah. I mean, then it's basically forgotten, and it's like, never mind, this never happened, and you just back on top again and kind of push for the next season.
It's interesting, right? Like looking back, like you clearly were deriving joy, happiness from results, as we all did. Like it's all we knew, right? That's what we were chasing. Like that's your career. That's all you knew as a kid. It's funny now, right? There was probably no balance. Like I don't know what you did during your injury months. Probably, I don't know, just wishing you were back riding and thinking about the riding.
Yeah, a lot of that. But also I definitely enjoyed some summertime because got to spend it at home. But yeah, like you're saying, you're definitely just thinking about riding, wanting to be at these events. And yeah, definitely not the easiest place to be when you're a young teenager, want to compete with all the others.
Yeah. So when do the wheels start coming off if you look back now, like for, pun intended, where you start losing the motivation? And we're going to get to the part that like not everyone knows, like they don't look at the shit part of the sport. They don't look at the pressure. They don't look at people getting depressed, like people just struggling with the choice they've done to like ride a mountain bike competitively, and then you lose the love of it. It becomes a job.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the year after that 2014 season, I probably might have worked a bit too hard coming into the 2015 season, because looking back now, I could see like being at the pre-season camp or whatever you want to call it in La Poma there in Barcelona. I remember kind of being a bit like over it and not having as much joy in like training and riding and stuff. And yeah, I remember chatting with Martin actually about this, like, how are you feeling? You don't seem as pumped on riding anymore. So that season was kind of like just getting through it, not crossing out.
So did Martin say to you don't feel pumped, or was he also not that pumped on riding, or he noticed that you weren't that stoked?
Yeah, I think he kind of noticed it in me because he had gone through some similar stuff before, like not a huge like dip, just like some lack of motivation. So yeah, that year was like, probably not the best, but I had a lot of fun filming the like Ride with the Swedes series with Martin and Red Bull that year, but also not like the most stoked on competing. But yeah, went to all the events. Maybe didn't get the results I wanted. And then, yeah, back in Whistler for Joyride, I was just warming up for, yeah, kind of similar story as the 2013 one, just having a crash right before the event. But this time I snapped my, yeah, same collarbone again after doing my first ever boner log flip, and somehow landed it, super stoked, and then was just gonna celebrate on the next feature with a flat spin, and just completely forgot about braking before that jump and overshot it massively and snapped my collarbone on my chiller move. So that was annoying. And then laying there on the ground, walking up the hill, started raining, and the event got postponed to the next morning. So I was like, damn it.
Dude, that's so ironic, right? Like,
yeah,
it's totally how the world works. Like, it'll humble you so quickly. Like, you do this trick that you've been probably worrying about, scared about. You do that, and then you're like, yeah, I'm going to celebrate. And then you lose concentration for a split second, and boom, you're on the ground. And like, in your sport, is losing motivation, like, because you have to accept you're going to crash. And I think when you're younger, you don't really even think about it. Like, does that start creeping into your training in your mind? Like, okay, I need to get comfortable on my certain trick, which means I could crash, but you just like push through. Like, what does it mean? Or you just like, I don't even feel like getting padded up and riding at all, chilled runs. Like, what does losing motivation in slopestyle look like?
Yeah, I guess it would have been like at that point a bit like you're saying, like not as keen to go out and ride and even pad up, but also the just lack of motivation to push yourself. And like slopestyle is a young sport and it grows really quick. So if you want to stay on top, you definitely need to be pushing. You can't just be doing the same stuff as you did the season before. So I think that would have been the main thing, just not as keen to progress, which is fair enough. Way if you're not motivated, you're not gonna go and get better, really.
Yeah, I mean, I've looked at slopestyle and it seems like it'll just eat you up and spit you out. You know, it is a young man's sport. I mean, there's some guys, I guess Ice did, but he's like newer to the mountain bike side, so I can see he's still super motivated. And people ask me why and how did he do these things. I'm like, well, he didn't have a bike sponsor. I think he's hungrier than some others to push himself, and he probably blocks out some of, you know, the thoughts of crashing and things like that. So you're right. Like every year you've got to learn new tricks, which means, yeah, there's one thing doing them into the foam pit or water, but you've got to then take your body and your mind through hell to get it on dirt, right? And that's what you mean by progressing.
Exactly. I mean, it's usually the progression of learning tricks is like doing it safely into a foam pit and then maybe like a mulch jump, and then you have to take it to the dirt, and that's where the consequences get real. What do you say? Consequences?
Consequences, yeah.
Yeah, the consequences get real if you end up crashing. So you definitely need to prepare before an event and make sure you have your tricks dialed. And if you're not motivated enough to put in all that work, it's pretty risky.
No, it certainly is. Like I've just seen, I mean, there's how many guys even going out at the top, Reader, Semenik, I might be missing someone where you're like, they were able to win and they decided to step back as well. So it's kind of a similar thing, whether you had a bunch of injuries and lost motivation, or even at the top, it's like, do I really want to be pushing myself out of my comfort zone year in, year out? Like that probably isn't that fun. When you're a kid, it's fun learning things, you know, you don't think twice, but the consequences are often less if the tricks are smaller, you know.
Exactly. It's just like you don't think of it like it's so fun to learn a new trick, and you just keep on going, and next thing you know, jumps get bigger, tricks get gnarlier, and crashes definitely get bigger as well.
Yeah, so you've had some injuries, you probably realizing you're losing motivation. Like, what's the self-talk like? When do you get to the realization, like, I think I need to step away? Like, how does that look for you, and how tough was that?
Yeah, like, crazy enough, it came probably a bit later in the story, or so I think, yeah, after that 2015 season and the collarbone snap, which gave you, well, gets you a break and some time away, enough time to get you stoked again, and for me anyway, like just like eager to get back. And I think 2016 might have been one of my funnest year competing and just riding in general. So that year was maybe not the results I was looking for, but just never felt better on my bike. And yeah, I was able to film like a cool video with Canyon over in Canada with Nick Genovese, Mindspark Cinema, and also Dylan Dunkerton from the Coastal crew. And I had like 3 days of solo riding for myself at the Coastal Gravity Park there outside of Vancouver and on the Sunshine Coast, which was really cool. And then competing, and yeah, like I said, didn't get the results I wanted, and some events even just had silly crashes, and can't really put my mind to why that happened, but didn't think too much of it. And then, yeah, finished off the season at the Nines event again, and was going for that transfer. They basically had like a huge left-handed quarter pipe to a bank here, and then a jump in the middle, and then a right hip here. And I went from the like left one and tried to go over the main jump and then into the right hip landing, and ended up overshooting at that massively. After my first try, almost casing, I was like, yeah, there's no way I can go too far. And then just took too much speed and pushed through a bit too much, and ended up breaking my neck, or at least fracture my C7. So that was probably the biggest injury I've had, although it was kind of a chill one. I got really lucky with it.
Yeah, but you fractured something, your bone in your neck.
Yeah, C7.
Oh, that's super scary.
Yeah, crazy enough though. Like I just.
Is that the one you were knocked out for as well, or was that another crash?
Other crash, I think. Somehow I don't think I really got knocked out. Like looking at the crash, it looks horrendous and like should have been a lot worse, I think. But I basically just stood up from the crash, like, oh, I'm fine, a little sore maybe, and just went to the hotel pool and later in the evening, and just went up from the pool and just flicked with my hair out of my face, and I was like, oh, that didn't feel great.
No way.
Yeah.
So you didn't even know you were hurt the whole day?
No, dude, I was fully convinced I was gonna go riding the next morning and get that transfer.
Shit.
So instead, I went to the hospital and got an X-ray, and I was like, yeah, you have a fractured C7 and also like some compressed vertebrae in your back. I was like, oh, wow, maybe I'm not riding today.
That is,
yeah.
I mean, I'm not surprised. We would all do it. We're like, yeah, I think I'm fine. You're so used to not feeling great anyway and riding through
right.
crashes, you know?
Yeah. So that, was a big injury, and probably like, to be honest, one of the most chilled ones, because I just had a neck brace for a month and was able to do everything else. Like, I couldn't ride, obviously, but I wasn't like handicapped, apart from not being able to like rotate my neck. But yeah, just healed from that. Took like probably 2 months on the day in total to get back on the bike and riding in the skate park again. But I think that's kind of where the wheels came off. I like, although it kind of happened a bit later, when I look back on it, like I just, same again, like having a break for 2 months, you're just so eager to come back and want to prove yourself, and just keen to get ready for the next season. So I think I kind of overworked myself in that season, just riding and training so much, and probably didn't get enough sleep in order to recover. So definitely got a bit burnt out, and might have healed my neck injury, but definitely didn't like heal anything mentally, I think, in that process.
Yeah. So when you say it came further on, like what was happening? Like, did you just start becoming super unhappy with everything? Didn't want to pad up? Like, what does that look like? Pretty
much, yeah. I just remember like, I don't remember exactly how and when it happened, but it was like going to the first event, which was white style for me that season in 2017, like the slope course on snow, and going there, like being super motivated in the off season, and then going there, I was like, yeah, not keen at all. And then the next event, kind of the same thing, like, I don't really want to be here, push myself in practice, and then having to ride this contest. And then I just pretty much went to all the events that year, not being stoked, and kind of felt like I didn't want to take the risk to push myself to like do the run that I'm capable of. So kind of just downgraded my riding a bit, and yeah, wasn't as stoked.
Yeah, I mean, it seems pretty natural though. Like it's not that fun to risk all the time and have another injury if you've had these like injuries like quite a few seasons in a row now as well. Like as much as it gives you a break, it's still quite draining getting back from injury and getting touch on the bike again and all those things, you know?
Yeah, so that whole season was basically just like being in a fog, just not knowing what's going on. Same again, like I had some talks with Martin, like, yeah, I can see you're not feeling it as you used to, and like just trying to help me out and like see what was going on. But also I think I was kind of delusional at that time, like, come on, I mean, I'm living the dream, like how can I not be happy when I'm getting to ride my bike and just compete all over the world, right?
Yeah, I mean, same thing with Martin. It's like, dude, you've got everything, you got all the sponsors. I always tease him, like, you got the good looks, you got the girls if you need. Like, what do you mean? Like, but that is ironic, isn't it? Like, be careful what you wish for in life, and like, if you're not super aware of what's going on, then you make yourself feel worse, right? When you're like, but I should be feeling better because I've got all these external things, right? That must be tough as well. Be like, shit, how can I not feel good when everything around me is good, looks good, you know? Money's coming in, sponsors still want me around, traveling the world with my friends. Like, does it make you feel like something's like wrong with you?
Totally. Yeah. Like I said, kind of being delusional and not knowing what was going on. It's like, it's pretty hard to like grasp what is actually going on. Like, why am I not feeling the way I usually feel? And like, yeah, it was really like weird time. I even like try to hit up some like professional psychologists and talk to them and try to like see what was going on, but didn't really feel like I got the help I needed or wanted. But also it was pretty hard for them to help me when I didn't give them much to work with, because I don't think I had like enough perspective to like know or tell them what they needed to have to work with me. But yeah, it was pretty rough time, definitely.
That's super interesting. You did reach out for help, and maybe they just didn't have the skill set and understanding maybe to get the information out of you as well. Like, I don't know if you can be that hard on yourself that you didn't give it to them. Like, if they don't understand the sport, like I've got a psychologist and a former BMX racer that's going to probably come on the pod again. Like, I'm just thinking, shit, that would be maybe, he's might be like a sports psychologist, but he studies all this stuff. Maybe that's more of a guy that someone that's in this scenario would have to speak to, you know, like if you could do it all over again.
Exactly. Yeah, totally. I think you're right. It might have just been like a poor match of like communication with the people I talked to.
Oh, 100%. Like, even if, so I've been to therapy and call it life coaching, call it what you will. Like, I don't mind speaking about it after my dad passed. And I still go, like, I'm okay with everything, and I'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. And some people like to talk about it, some people don't. But I'm not with the same therapist I saw the first time when I was really going through grief, because it wasn't, it's not a match. Like, it might take you a few goes to find someone that you gel with, your style, you know, communication, like you say, or do you need them to give you more feedback, or do you want to be doing more of the talking? Like, whatever it may be. So I think I understand it's not for everyone, and I'm not forcing it on, but I think done correctly, it can be super powerful, you know, as like a life coaching thing.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And yeah, I'm sorry to hear about your father. That's gnarly.
No. I mean, it's many years
Yeah.
now. And yeah, like I say, I like talking about it. For me, it helps. Some people are the
Yeah.
opposite, you know?
Yeah, I think that was my
But
problem in the beginning. Like, I didn't want to talk about it at all, and also didn't really know where to begin.
it's obviously a taboo topic. And
Yeah.
when you're a rock star slopestyle athlete, it's probably not the thing that comes to mind, that people talk about the struggles they're going, or talk about their feelings, or maybe they just need a hug. Like
For
I've
sure.
had these
Yeah.
chats with Martin when he was going through some of his stuff. I catch him in the airport, and our chats would be deeper than some other people, and
Yeah.
I could
Yeah.
see he thinks about things more, or things affect him more than some others, and that's fine. Everyone's different. So how did you get to the point that you had to step away, or was that the only option after speaking to people and going, I can't figure this out?
Yeah. Kind of seemed at the time the only option. I remember, yeah, like I said, going through that season, not being keen at all, and felt like at every event I was like, yeah, I don't really want to be here. And then at that time, I still worked with Tarek, and kind of just like talking to him, like, so Anton, what are your like plans and the goals for the next year? Like, I need to like talk to some of your sponsors, and some are interested to hear like what shall we do for the future. And I was like, I mean, to be honest, I don't really have an answer for you. Like, and then we basically both agreed on just, yeah, maybe it's time to press pause on these contracts, and yeah, take a break from competing and all this. So that's basically what I had to come down to.
And what was that like for you, and what did you do in that time? So, and it sounded like at the time it was a pause. That's all you knew. It's like, okay, let's try pause it. You didn't quite know, but so what did
Exactly.
that look like? What did you get up to? How tough was that?
I mean, in the beginning it was super tough. Like, from just thinking I was a bit overworked, hitting the wall, to them being completely depressed and super lost when you stop doing what you're doing for a job, and like huge identity crisis. Like, okay, so now what? I've been doing this basically my whole or half of my life anyway, and now what am I gonna do? I'm not really, like, especially when you're depressed, it's not the time you wanna look for new things in life as well. Like, it's really tough to like even have the power or interest to start something new, or trying to figure out what you want to do. So I took it fairly easy for a while. Luckily, I could just cruise for a year or so, just not doing much, and try to, yeah, I still rode a bit, but just not as much, and definitely not pushing myself, and just trying to enjoy some normal things in life. Although everything kind of was the same, like I said before, it was just kind of like living in a fog. Everything is just like this. There's no highs, there's no lows, just everything's kind of just below average. But yeah, played some golf, trying to have fun. I know you love some golf as well, so
That'll give you some highs and lows. Well, that'll give you some highs and some super lows. So maybe that was a good distraction.
Sure. Yeah, definitely good distraction. But I just remember like kind of being out on course, thinking like, okay, there's 5 holes left. I'm kind of over it, and like just stuff like that. Just not finding the joy in anything really.
Yeah, man, that sounds so difficult.
Dude, yeah, it's horrible. I don't wish that upon anyone really. But eventually I had to figure something out, and needed to get a job. Tried working at a bank for, less than like a month. Wasn't really my thing.
I was going to say, that's an interesting attempt at a real job, quote unquote, is a bank.
Right.
What, like doing what?
What on earth? Yeah. No, just basic like customer support, and classic move of following your older brother's footsteps. And he'd done that and passed. I was like, yeah, I'll give it a go. How bad can it be? But yeah, it was not for me. Let's just say that. And after that, I kind of coasted for a bit, and met this amazing girl who's now my partner and the mother of our child. So that definitely gave me some, but the first time in a while that gave me like a life high, you know, and brought back some joy into life and the distraction from what was going on. And eventually I got myself into working out, and the guy who owned the gym happened to be a friend of my older brother, and he asked if I wanted to work at the gym there, and then that led me into getting educated as a personal trainer and also kind of like a nutritionist. So did that kind of like a 3 to 6 month education, and then started working at that gym with clients and stuff. So did that for 2 years, and it was cool to do something else.
How old were you at this time when you took that year off?
I guess my last year competing was 2017. I would have been like 24 when I stopped competing. Yeah.
That is so young. Even if you have a long career, successful, however you want to call it, money in the bank, whatever, accolades, you achieved everything. Like stopping sport, it comes up a lot on the podcast, is like a death of its own. Like to me, there's a grieving process and an acceptance. And like maybe I was in my 30s, maybe I was a little bit more aware that it was coming and how hard it could be because I'd read a bunch of books on similar topics. But like you're 24 and it's just like almost out of your control, forced upon you with what you were going through and your motivation. Like I was going to ask, was there an identity crisis? But you said it. Like, of course there is. Like it's all you knew. And then you're 24 and you're like, okay, I went to a sports school. I have a skill of riding a slopestyle bike, which is super niche, right?
Yeah.
And now I need to get a job. Like eventually I'm going to need some income. Like it's so daunting, and there's no education on it. There's no support structure. Like you say, like maybe I'll connect you with this guy and say, isn't this something you could chat to athletes about? I think it is. Like help athletes transition, whether they're 24 or not. Like, cause you let's call it mental health. Like that to me is an injury and you got through it. It could be the same as like fracturing your leg and you can't compete again. Like it happens to all sportsmen. Like people, there's no wonder they get into drugs, alcohol. Like, you know, we have sort of these addictive personalities, and maybe it's lucky I found golf that I just go and try do that with some of my spare time and not go to the bar.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you sharing it, because I don't think it's spoken about enough, and it's coming up a lot. Like I forget the name, but there was like really high profile tennis athlete that took some time away, mental health issues. There's a golfer, Lexi Thompson, like you can see she's burnt out and she's been doing this since she was so young. And she's like, I just kind of want some time to myself, and it's not giving her happiness, the grind and being in the public eye. So thanks for sharing that. And I mean, I hear you, because what do you focus on? When you were competing, you had this one goal. I struggle with that still. I'm like, I've got all these things that are amazing. They look good from the outside, but like, what am I working towards, you know?
Yeah, it's not the same, right? When you just have this main like focus and goal, like it's super selfish. Just like whatever you do during the day is all to get better at riding your bike. And that's the main purpose of your life, basically.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. It is a selfish endeavor, and probably, you know, and I know now, like having a little one, it's like poof, it's like a slap in the face on how interesting that life was back then. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's like,
no, exactly. Yeah.
It's nothing wrong with chasing sport and chasing these sort of selfish endeavors. And you're going to hopefully learn balance over time. But yeah, man, it is. Yeah, like you said, you don't wish it on anyone, because how tough is that to be on a golf course and not want to be there, or nothing tickles your fancy? Like that's super, super hard. So obviously getting into exercise, I think, is huge. Like they say, like if you can start exercise, get your sleep good, get your nutrition good, like how lucky that you found exercise and someone say, oh, why don't you try work at a gym? Like what a great way to help with what you were going through in hindsight.
definitely, yeah. Looking back, that was probably like the main, I guess, turning point of getting healthy again, or whatever you want to say. But so yeah, just like started trying stuff again, and I mean that's what you just need to do. Just need to keep going and keep pushing in order to go forward, right? So that was huge for me, and I think where am I going with this?
Well,
But yeah, like you said,
pushing forward, trying new things, exercising.
Exactly, and then like working with clients, I found joy in that because obviously I had some I guess expertise in the area where some people who came in needed from me, so it definitely felt like I can bring some value again to the table, and that became my like purpose, just help these people who wants to work out, and I luckily knew how to help them, and that was really cool doing that for 2 years. And then once COVID hit, yeah, things changed again.
But I mean, that's also something like helping other people gives you fulfillment, and you realize like that's often what life can be about as well. And you can see why people, some of those successful guys, get into philanthropy and charity and things sometimes after they've done all these selfish, crazy endeavors, and then they get into that and you realize, oh, that is also part of life. Like passing on the knowledge, adding value, like you say. I mean, people want to be wanted, I think, for lack of a better term. You know, like when your sponsors want you to do something that makes you feel good.
Exactly, yeah.
Maybe when these clients want you to help them and they give you some feedback, oh, thanks, man, I'm feeling better. Like that does make you feel better, right? It is cool.
For sure, yeah.
Fulfillment and value in that.
Yeah, it's kind of like a real life, I guess, social media like or comment in a way.
Yeah, but like that's real and better for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Than an empty comment. Yeah, I mean, even in the podcast, when people message that they're getting value out of it, it's like, okay, cool. We're not speaking to no one. Like if one person gets value, and I think many, many people get value from this conversation, but that means something, right? That we're helping other people get through life. And maybe someone listening is like, shit, I felt like Anton. I feel like him. Like life sucks and life's hard. But Anton's showing you like you can get through it, and it's day by day, and it's trying new things, maybe helping someone else. Like there's probably always someone worse off than you that you could maybe help. As simple as that sounds.
Yeah, that's probably like a healthy way of looking at it when you feel like you're at the bottom. Kind of like it could always be worse. And instead of thinking like, oh, I wish I had this and that, and just like be thankful for what you have instead.
Well, it's a practice, gratitude. Yeah. And there's a book, Soul for Happiness. I don't know if I've quoted it here, but I'll let you in on it. I'll send it off. And this, speaking of tough life, like he lost his son. I think his son was 19. I could be misquoting it, right? Yeah. And as you know, like you don't even want to talk about that topic as a parent. But he was a successful engineer that worked at Google X. And he basically, like as an engineer, didn't understand why he wasn't happy. So he had all the money. Yeah. He could literally like, he's so smart. He could like day trade if his wife needed something new or like a new car overnight. Like he had everything, right? And he wasn't happy. And then this happened, but he learned through his son, because his son was this like amazing soul that taught him a lot. Yeah. And he basically wrote a book by reverse engineering happiness. And one of his slogans...
I feel like I've heard of this.
Yeah, and he's got... I'll send you the podcast as well. Yeah. No. And one of his sayings is look down. So not just look up, look down. Because someone's always probably going through something worse, or, you know, it could be worse. And it helps you, I think, practice gratitude, you know, even in these dark times. But it's a practice, right? It doesn't like miraculously happen. And then he has like a happiness equation of like, your expectations versus life's reality. And if you don't match that, it's like a seesaw. And then that drags down your happiness. If you expect you expect to shoot level par, and you come out and you shoot 85 on the golf course, well, those
Or
weren't
100.
aligned, like, or 100. If your reality doesn't match your expectations, that drives you into unhappiness. So, it doesn't come without work. It doesn't come without like talking about these things. But I'll share that book's amazing. Like he's just got a really awesome analytical way of talking about of the concept of happiness and fulfillment and what drives us as humans, and he tested it. He's like, he did everything that the world said you should be happy, you should be a success. And he wasn't.
Yeah, sounds definitely like interesting. One need to check that out.
No, it certainly is. And so you do that. That's a cool career as well. And like I say, you went through a lot at a young age. I think it was harder for you at that age to be like, shit, I've got a lot of life left, and don't want to be too personal, but I would imagine not enough income to not work. So you've got to find income as well. And that's stressful. So what does COVID bring like to mind? Like what does it teach you during COVID?
Yeah, so basically just kind of starting with people getting scared of the gym, like clients starting to cancel, and just the gym in general kind of slow down the opening hours, and eventually led to me like getting a lot more free time, where I kind of, blessing in disguise, discovered my love for riding again. So I got more free time, started riding a bunch, and that led me to kind of realizing, oh, this is why I started riding, and almost became as much fun as it was when I started, like around 11, 10 years old. So very like I guess how big of a disaster it was for the world, it definitely gave me what I needed in terms of like time and room to find what I want to do. And I'm definitely happy I got some more time on my bike, and definitely just fell in love with it again.
That's epic to hear. Like such a tough situation to go through, losing income, losing clients, and then the silver line. There's always a silver lining, right? I mean, I sound like such a preacher, but there really is. Like life is hard. Life is shit. People lost businesses during that time. You maybe thought you were going to do that, but the blessing was like you were forced to ride again. Like, so you were just bored at home and you were like, looked at your bike like, yeah, I probably should go for a ride, and then just re-energized you. Because I'm like that at home when I don't ride for a week or two, and then I go ride, I'm like, what was I doing? Like there's never normally a ride that I'm disappointed I went for a ride. Like it is pretty meditative.
Totally. I mean, like people say, like you never really regret a workout or a ride, I guess.
That's true. Exactly. Gym's the same. Yeah. Running's the same. It went from like raising your heart rate. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good for you, right? So it basically went from being just at the gym all day working with clients, and then from having packed days in the gym to having a few gaps here and there with clients, like still working with some, and then just getting these windows of opportunity to ride or go play golf, and just finding joy in that again. And eventually that just took over, and I reached out to like Canyon and some other partners I had in the past, and like, look, is there a place for me here in the industry again? Because I really want to go riding and push myself and make this into a job again. So luckily Canyon would just welcome me with open arms, and 2021 I was on a contract with them again, and really grateful for that.
That's so cool. I've seen some of the videos and they're super fun and feel good as well. And like, if you think about people riding out there, like the masses are also riding for enjoyment. Some of them, most of them are not there to compete. They could care less. Like biking is not about competing maybe ever. They might never do a race or a competition.
Exactly. Yeah. There's so many people riding. It's probably just a little fraction of people who are actually competing on a bike, right?
Yeah. No, that's sick, man. So what does that look like? What do you want to do in the industry? Like what video parts are you thinking about? Like what's that been like coming back, and then like looking a little into the future?
Yeah, so I guess that year I was just really keen, rode a bunch, and then kind of similar timing, Chopper, Grand Fielder, reached out to me and asked if I want to be a judge. I was like, yeah, that sounds pretty fitting. I feel like I understand this sport enough and would be keen to get involved again in the scene. So I did a little judging course with him and then had a little test, and he said, yeah, you're definitely qualified to do this. And I judged my first event, 2021 Innsbruck Crankworks, which back then was still kind of COVID area, so we did it remotely. So I was just sitting at home, doing it from home, which was a bit weird compared to how it is nowadays, which I prefer, being out and even like sometimes just riding the courses and hanging with my friends. And then just when it's contest time, I'd step away and sit in the booth and judge them instead.
It seems similar to commentating. Like you get the rush, the pressure, you get to be at the event. You don't have to do it, but there's pressure, man. You judges, like, we're coming down to you from the booth, like, what's going on? Why are you taking so long? Why'd you make that decision? What's going on? So what's it like to judge? Like, how nerve-wracking is it?
Oh yeah, I'm getting a bit more used to it now. In the beginning, I was like sweating and just can feel my pen just sliding on my fingers. It was pretty stressful. And I mean, just like contest to contest, it can be so different. Some contests are really hard to judge, and it just depends on the level of riding or how close the guys are. So some contests you wish you weren't judging, and some are like fairly easy. But yeah, it's cool now when the sport has gotten to the place where all of the judges are basically just former riders. So I think it's the most fair judging it's ever been.
Yeah, it makes sense. And that's how it really should be. So yeah, I think you guys did an incredible job, and it's a thankless job. Like I said, totally. We spoke a bit about the Rampage, and like, you can't win. You just can't win as a judge. You're just going to get slated. And you guys sometimes have it a bit simpler because like everyone's on the same obstacle. So at least you have that. At least you have that part. But like you said, it's almost subjective. Judges are going to have different biases, admittedly so, to certain styles and tricks, even if there's a system. And if it's so close, like that's the hard part, I would guess, versus like, okay, that's a runaway. Like, I just need to make a score higher than the next guy.
Totally, yeah. Luckily we have like 5 judges, and the score is just an average from all of the judges. So I think it works out in the end. I mean, obviously we can't like be 100% correct every time, but we're trying our best, and I hope people mostly agree with us anyway.
No, I definitely think they are. So now to put you on the spot, speak about pressure. Semenuk, Reeder, Emil, banger run at their prime. Who takes the win? Speaking of judging.
Oh boy. I mean, it's pretty.
And now we have to put Godziak into that picture as well, and I guess Regatkin. But let's keep it simple, because those 3 have made it look a little bit like a robot riding a course at times.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, those are the most professional and the ones who wants it the most, I think, and that's why they've been the most successful as well. But I think it's pretty unfair to both Semenuk and Reeder to put them against Emil, because he's just so much younger, and the sport kind of progressed in a way where when he started getting into it, which like at 2016, 2017 is where kind of both those stepped away. So Emil's highest level now is definitely higher than the level was back then when they were on top. So if there would have been a contest, it probably would have been Emil on top.
That's a fair, logical way to look at it. I like what you've done there, because they progressed the sport. He learned from that, and then he jumped in at a higher level, and then he's progressed. So that's kind of a fair way.
Where they left off,
So you're saying, look, in 2024, his banger run, the level is higher. So then his top right. Oh, that's fair. Okay. That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
At least you gave an answer and you didn't sugarcoat it. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, tried to give an answer.
Yeah, for sure. And then now, you got Godziak taking down Emil, or is he not quite? Is he come back from injury? Like, what's the deal there?
Yeah, so I think he even put on one of his like recent Instagram posts after crashing out before Joyride that every event this year he came back from injury. I think he flew to Cairns with like 3 hours of bike riding in 6 weeks before that. And then it's been like lingering injuries in between the events that he just had to push through to get back. And not ideal preparation, to say the least.
No, and I'm not taking anything away from Godziak because that's really amazing. Sure, and he's, who knows, even if Emil was healthy, it could still be the same results. So, yeah. And what do you make of the boycott, the riders' boycott beginning of the season? You've been a rider. Were there some issues back then? Where do you stand on that? Obviously, you're not riding now, you're judging and you're at the event, and you want the event to succeed because it jeopardizes the event as well.
Yeah, it kind of puts me in a weird position because obviously I come from the riding background, being a competitor, so I'm probably leaning towards the rider's side, but also I want the event to succeed as well, and everyone to just move forward with the same goal, right? So it was tough to me to see. Luckily for me, I wasn't at that event in particular, so it was kind of easier for me to sit back at home and not really be aware of it until it hit social media. But yeah, it kind of shook me a bit, but I think in the end, it seems now they just work closer together and better. So yeah, I think the sport's in a good position right now.
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to ask, we obviously not glossed over, but did you use any forms of meditation? Like, I understand mountain biking can be a form of meditation. Like, did you use any actual like formal meditation practices? Like, what other things did you do to help when times were tough?
Yeah, I think so. Probably similar to you. Golf is a way of kind of stepping away and a meditative way to just let go and just kind of relax your mind a bit from riding. But then also I think the main thing that I actually picked up from one of the psychologists that I saw was like mindfulness. Have you heard of that?
Yeah. I mean, it's, I guess, in short, trying to be in the present and bring yourself always to the present and focus on the breath. Is that a correct way?
Exactly. Pretty much, yeah. And I guess the like easiest way to just do that for me that he told me was just to, whatever, if you're sitting up or laying down, or just like focus on your breathing and kind of do like a wave through your body, like trying to feel your toes and then just go all the way up to your head. So yeah, I did that, and I found that helpful to just calm down and like you're saying, just bring yourself to the present moment. And
so like settle your mind, settle your thoughts in your mind.
A bit, yeah, pretty much. And that like mindfulness, like that just, I guess, resonated with me so hard that I wanted to make that video project I did with Canyon in 2021. So me and two buddies just pitched Canyon with this idea that we wanted to do this, but basically a riding video, the underlining story being like focusing a bit on mental health and mindfulness, which is the title of the video.
Yeah, it was great. I watched that. I'll do my best to link it in the bio. Otherwise, just go on YouTube and you will find it. I really enjoyed that. Like it is an important thing, and I think mountain biking, when you push it a little bit, puts you in the present. You can't ride that well if you're thinking about other things. Golf, once you play the shot as well, it helps you quiet the mind. I mean, it's an interesting hobby because it makes me damn angry, but I guess that's my expectations are too high, so it brings me back to have a life lesson there. You know, it's meant to be a hobby. You're meant to be outdoors, and that's why I still just gravitate back to bikes, Anton. Like, that's where I get just forced mindfulness, or I actually get out of my own head. And I trained for Mega Avalanche. So I haven't done like formal training for a long time. So I had to do some intervals and stuff like that. And man, you want to get out of your own head? Go do an interval. You want to get out of your own head? Go run up some stairs. You want to get out of your own head? Lift some heavy weights. And it sounds insensitive, but I do promote that. I do promote like, just
it is healthy
commit,
in a way, sure.
Just commit a couple times a week. Just get someone that can keep you accountable, that'll check in if you did your workout or check in if you did your run. Like it's going to solve everything, but it's certainly going to get you on that path.
Oh, for sure. It's like we were saying earlier, just getting your heart rate up every day is pretty healthy, and a good way of getting your mind off things, because you can't really think about all these problems or whatever you have got going on if you're pushing on intervals, right?
No, dude, you literally think about nothing else except your heart freaking exploding, or coughing up some blood if you do it properly. I don't know if I did it as hard as I did it when I was trying to win a race, but it was certainly cool to take me back and go, you know what, doing hard stuff's good. Like, if you've never felt bad after doing hard stuff, like lifting heavy in the gym or these things, like, there's something behind doing difficult stuff in life. And we did that for so many years, right?
Yeah.
And maybe it's not to forget, like, shit, you actually need to, like, coasting in life doesn't actually feel that good.
No,
like, it just doesn't. Nice, like, it's fun. It's nice in the moment. But, I need to find that quote. Like, nice in the moment is not good for you long term. Tough in the moment helps you long term. Like, how ironic is that?
Totally, yeah. I mean, you always feel such a relief after overcoming a hard thing or obstacle in life, whatever it might be, if it's a workout or a run or just a tough ride, right?
Is that why kids are so fulfilling? Because they're quite difficult at times?
Probably.
I can hear mine now. He's woken up from a nap. So that's funny. Yeah. The yin and the yang, the pros and the cons of life. And you said nutrition as well. Like, you obviously studied that. Like, that's a huge help as well, right? If you can get your nutrition right, your nutrition and sleep.
Yeah, I mean, totally. I mean, luckily I never really had a problem with like nutrition, or like some people have it really hard where they can't eat certain foods and stuff like that. But learning about it and realizing what your body needs is definitely helpful if like you find yourself having trouble with like digesting certain foods and how you feel about after eating certain stuff. So yeah, it was really cool to like learn about what certain foods does for you and what you need really.
And did you help these clients with that? Like, if you give them a gym workout, do you also ask like, okay, what's your eating like? Are you eating junk? Are you eating clean? Like, did you do any of that or not really?
A little bit. Like, some people just was interested in getting help in the gym, and some kind of wanted a more like wholesome program, like help with just I guess tips with everything. So I did a bit of both for sure.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, Anton, I appreciate you opening up. Like, it's not easy topics, and I think you're going to help so many people. I hope it was fun for you. Maybe as we wind down, if there's something you want to leave with the listeners, like advice, anything we've missed, like what do you want to tell the next up and comer or guy going through a hard time?
Yeah, that's a tough one, putting me on the spot again, Andrew.
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, no, but like in general, like we're talking about just like having someone to push forward and to keep you going, like somewhat of a purpose. I definitely found that with having a child last year, like it gives you so much life purpose. And my partner Linnea actually told me last night, like I don't think I've seen you have a bad day ever since we had a kid. You always seem so positive and happy with just the joy you get from having a child. But like, you don't need to have a child in order to be happy.
I was going to say, we don't want everyone just having children to help with problems. But what do you think the lesson is, like taking the focus off of yourself, taking your focus onto helping another human being, like I think there's so many lessons in that.
Exactly. I mean, just having something, and that's what's tough, because it's not always you have something that you live for or love. Because and yeah, in the position I was, you just need to keep on trying and try to find that next thing that you really want to push and go for in order to find like life fulfillment.
Yeah, I mean, that's powerful. And sometimes it takes people a long time, whether it's sportsmen that have to retire and try find something else. Maybe someone has a job they don't enjoy and they need to find something that's worth doing. Maybe people's family life isn't great and they need to gravitate to something. So, dude, thanks so much for opening up, making me think, and I think helping listen. And I look forward to you back in the industry and just like telling your story and getting people stoked on riding bikes, right?
Yeah, definitely. I hope this conversation can inspire someone or help someone in a difficult position. And yeah, definitely keen to be back in the industry. And although this year kind of been like a bit of a down year for me with having a child and having a house, full renovation, this and that, but 2025 really keen to be back on my bike pushing it, and yeah, stoked for that.
Well, there you have it, folks. Thanks so much to Anton. If you were watching on YouTube, you might as well hit us up in the comments if you got value out of it, and maybe send him a direct message to say thanks, because I'm sure a lot of you are going to get something out of it. And it really is helpful to know that he's spreading a good message, because then he's going to maybe go on more podcasts and not just mine. But what a legend for coming on mine and breaking your podcast virginity. I appreciate that. So till the next one, you guys know what to do. I think share this one with a friend. That's the biggest thanks you can do. And then make sure you subscribe if you haven't yet on the YouTube channel. So till the next one, peace.